It's Karsch and Anderson on a Friday, and it's not just any old Friday. It's trade deadline Friday in the National Hockey League. For the record, the trade that the Red Wings make, which I think sounds like the other move, like you make the big move and then you also make this other move, and you go, that other move there might help. This feels like it's simply the other move. They just did it first, and that was trading a conditional mid-round pick for David Perron. He comes back to Detroit. In hockey circles, this is getting hailed as a possible, very smart move. Possible because he's had the sports hernia surgery.
Yes.
Which there's not a guarantee he'll be back on the ice.
But Answer Khan from MLive tweeted this out about 10 minutes ago. He says, Mo Sider on David Perron's influence in the room. Says, quote, his care level is just really high. He always thinks about the guy next to him, never puts himself on the first position, and that's something we really admire and appreciate. And I saw something that Birchie had tweeted out last night about after David Perron had been traded for, that, Perron was the guy that, remember a couple of years ago when Dylan Larkin got cranked in the neck, Perron just went after the guy right away. Yeah. No questions asked, just boom, went after it. And he was making a point that the other night when Larkin got cross-checked on the power play and nothing happened. Now, nothing happened because you're on the power play. You're at the end of the game. You want to win the game. But nonetheless, that's something that David Perron just jumped on right away.
Yep.
So he's a great teammate.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be a nice addition to this team if he's able to play? I hope so. I hope he helps solidify and calm things down with the veteran influence that he has and plays a good two-way game.
248-539-9797. Okay, so it is noon, and noon seems to be the point where the Rangers have their offers in hand. Reporting today by the NHL trade rumors that the Rangers have asked the Carolina Hurricanes and the Detroit Red Wings to make their final offers for Vincent Trocheck. All accounts, everybody around the league is saying prices are astronomical, high, crazy. You got to pay a lot to get a mid-level player. So to get a Trocheck or a Robert Thomas, you're going to have to pay a lot. But the reporting was that the Red Wings and Carolina were told to make their final offers Friday morning. It went on to say, at this point, it's a 90% certainty that Trocheck doesn't play another game for the Rangers this season. He was held out of Thursday night's game against Toronto. Makes $5.6 million a year for the next 3 seasons. The later in the story, it says, the Red Wings will make a huge splash on Friday, so if it's not Trocheck for Steve Yzerman, look for him to circle back on Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks, Nazem Kadri from the Calgary Flames. Yzerman also has ties to Steve Stamkos and could convince the future Hall of Famer to waive his no-trade clause for the Red Wings playoff push. I think that's probably more in play than we've given it talk. There was some reporting that Stamkos didn't want to come to Detroit. As far as Elias Pettersson, I have no interest, given his price tag and the trend in his career and how long he's under contract. In fact, I'll be shocked if they do that. If they do, I'll actually be mad. But in the case of final offers for Trocheck, I mean, how high are you willing to go to get a very versatile player from Team USA who's under a decent contract and can really help this team in the here and the now? Or do you want to go all in and what seems to be an astronomical asking price for Robert Thomas?
It would seem like if you're going to take on Pettersson, that Vancouver would have to pick up a significant portion of his salary. Because this is a guy who's, $11 million a year for many, many more years? Mm-hmm. And he's nowhere near the player he was a few years ago when he had 100 points. Yeah, that's a tough one to sell.
Feedback coming into the Karsch and Anderson inbox. This from YouTube, from Legendary Dad. He writes, I'm not sure the juice is worth the squeeze with Thomas or Trocheck unless the price drops a bit. From Sebastian, look at St. Louis. Kevin Falk is a decent defender, and the Blues are asking offer is acting like he's Nick Lidstrom. Robert Thomas is the biggest fish on the trade market, and he's just a solid center. He ain't worth 3 top prospects and picks. It's nuts.
This is what's going on right now.
And you got to be comfortable with that if you're going to be a serious player this year. And I think it sucks because as much as we look at the East and think it's wide open, that also means there's a whole bunch of teams in the East that are trying to add. It's great to be a seller. But Detroit hasn't been this firmly in the playoffs at the trade deadline in some time. And, Yzerman has said in the past that the team's play has to justify an addition. I think they have. But it's a rough market to try and add a significant piece. But I really, really hope, and I suspect, and I'm actually sure, that they are trying hard. It's just whether or not they're going to blink or Rangers or Blues or Philly is going to blink.
Yeah, and the report that Philadelphia may just hang on to Ristolainen, I feel like that's something that other teams, I mean, St. Louis in particular, could just hang on to Thomas because you don't need to trade him. You've got him signed for years. He's a good player, and there's nothing forcing you to get something done here unless somebody meets your demands. I keep going back to the analogy. It's like if you got a house, you want to sell your house? No, I don't want to sell my house, but I'll offer you twice what it's worth. Okay, I'll sell my house. Right? Like I know
right, yeah.
the signs I'm moving, but if my house is worth $400,000 and you're going to offer me $900,000 for it, okay, I'll find a new place to live. Thank you.
Yep.
But unless that offer is going to come around, and I wouldn't expect that offer to come around, but it seems like these teams are holding out for the Godfather offer.
Let's go to Brian. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Brian.
Hey, what's up, guys? So
Hey.
Two things, Red Wings and Lions. So for Lions, I would say, second round, get, was it Dunker?
Yeah.
And then just as a merchandising point, you could have, like, T-shirts with Ratledge and Dunker on it, fear the mullets.
Sure.
But for the more serious point, the Red Wings, I was telling Kenny, I'm actually hoping that Yzerman doesn't do anything, and this is from a jaded point of view. I'm hoping he doesn't do anything, and I hope they miss the playoffs, so that gives him reason for him to be fired. And Kenny was saying that, he thinks that Yzerman has, like, immunity and will never be fired. If the Red Wings miss and Yzerman doesn't do anything, fans are going to be pissed. And they're going to be at games chanting, sell the team, fire the coach, like they did in other cities with other teams. Because
I'm curious, Brian, why do you want that?
Because he hasn't done anything. Like, he hasn't made the playoffs in, 7, 8 years?
That's probably going to end this year.
I'm hoping, but
Are you? Actually, you're not hoping. You said just the opposite.
You're right. My hope is dwindling. I'll say that, because every year, I'm hoping, all right, well, this is the year. This is the year. And it's just years have gone by, and I'm just tired of it. And I know a lot of other fans are too.
So
if his name, if he wasn't Yzerman, he would have been fired like 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, maybe. I mean, look, at this point, I think there is. I don't think he's got immunity. First of all, I disagree with Kenny on that. With all respect to, but I guess I've never been in a place where I'd rather be right about a take than have the team be successful.
Well, think about that. If this team, worst case scenario is they don't make the playoffs, they don't make any trades. Well, I guess worst case scenario is they make devastatingly crippling trades to your future and don't make the playoffs.
Right.
That's the worst case scenario.
You go for it and collapse
they go
anyway.
for it and completely fall apart. Do I think that Steve Yzerman would be in trouble with his job? Yes. Do I think he's in trouble if they don't make the playoffs, period, regardless of what happens today? Yeah, I think so, because it has been a long time. Now, watching how this team is progressed over the last couple of years, they need to make the playoffs for sure, right?
Yep.
But they've also gotten to the point now where we're starting to see the prospects play. We saw at the beginning of the season, Brandon Nygaard was on the roster. Nate Danielson would have been if he didn't get hurt, and then he ended up playing for a little bit. They're getting their feet wet with it. Sandin Pelech has been on this roster all season long. For that narrative that was out there that they always over-ripen their players in the minors, a lot of guys have gotten their feet wet or even played a ton over the last couple of years, and they've got a whole other crew of guys that are waiting their time right now in Grand Rapids, or they're just getting their minor league career started. That it feels like there's lots of prospects there. That there's reason to hope that you're cycling in younger, inexpensive talent and hopefully balancing that with expensive players that you can get free agency and trades.
248-539-9797. Karsch and Anderson, 97.1.